Yeah.
All right. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hey there, spiritual dope. I am on today with a special friend, Lindsey. Should we say Lindsey E. Garner? Lindsey
Yeah.
E. Garner, because I said
It's very
it's
important.
it is very important. It's very important so that people can pull you out of the crowds of Lindsey Garners, right? And so Lindsey is actually a pretty good friend of Meg's. For those of you that know me, then you probably know Meg, and there's a good chance you already know Lindsey. And then so let's talk about Lindsey and her standing naked in front of strangers blog. I'm gonna read Lindsey. I'm gonna read your about me here off of your blog posts, and then you can make a decision whether or not you want to keep that going forward.
Okay.
My entire life, I felt like an outsider, feeling like I saw things a little different than most of the people around me. A few years ago, I started to be okay with that. I started to strip off the layers that I've been carrying around for the decades and show up a whole lot more authentically. I started writing to free up some space in my brain for forward movement. Turns out, people liked what I had to say, so I kept writing. I don't feel super tied to labels of mom, wife, soldier, yogi, although these are all titles I've held. But I'm so much more connected to the idea that each of us is on a little trip to figure out our own purpose, and this is a part of mine. And I hope you'll join me. So thanks for being on, and thanks for agreeing to be on. How many podcasts have you been on?
0. Now 1.
So
Ooh,
this is
1.
your first. Well,
First
welcome. Like I told you before we got on, it's cool to get on one because you learn that you don't go up in flames, right? You're like, and you can do it. Like, there's nothing to it other than just kind of showing up and being yourself. So, welcome.
Thanks. That's my favorite thing to do. So, why not?
Right on. The You've listened to a couple of podcasts, and thanks for being a listener. And so you probably know how I open these up, right? With the idea that we're vessels for source, God, whatever you feel like calling it. And you're on today because you have a message that is going to reach somebody's ears that can only be delivered through you, right? What is that message today?
I actually did like a little meditation before we started just to transition from one part of my life into this. And I think what I kept kind of landing on is like, yeah, I'm not some like giant published author. I had a little case of like imposter syndrome this morning. I was like, what do I have to say? Right. But what I kept landing on is like, okay, maybe I say one thing that one person out there takes and is like, yeah, I'm not alone. I'm not feeling these thoughts or living in a space that I am totally on my own in. And so that's how I'm coming into this. And I think there's something to be said for living that way. Like maybe you smile at someone, you take a second and you smile at someone, you just don't know the impact that has in their day. So the more that we just live in a way that really feels like we're honoring ourselves, the ripples are pretty big.
Nice. I mean, just owning who you are, and I hate to say just, right. So owning who you are, and that's actually very powerful. So owning who you are, and owning that you have the power to change someone's life with your smile.
Yeah, you do. Like it's crazy. You really can. I manage a retail store. That's like my full-time gig. It's a lot. And I've learned, I never thought I would be in retail and I actually quite like it. But I've learned so much, the impact that you can have just on like allowing space for someone to actually show up and not being canned and like, how you doing today? And then them just saying, great. Oh, okay, great. Like it's this script we run through, but rather actually like stopping and saying, no, like actually, how are you doing today? And it's okay to not be okay. And you can say that even to just somebody selling you yoga pants, like it's fine. And the cool things that have opened up for me through that, I mean, I can't count them. It's phenomenal.
What's one?
I think it's the relinquishment of ego. Yeah. I mean, and you're never gonna get rid of it, right? It's always there.
Well, yeah, I mean,
But
how's that? So, yeah, how's that showing up for you, right? Like relinquishment of ego through your work at retail,
yeah.
or I mean, I guess I would take it a step further though, because not everybody that works in retail is able to let go of the script,
Mhm.
right? Not everybody that works in retail is okay with relinquishing ego. And I can tell you, I mean, even in years past, is working like as a bartender or being that customer facing person, and somebody's being an asshole. Like I am really hesitant to relinquish ego. I'm like, no, you're being an asshole, right? So walk me through your process of that was clearly before my ascension. Um,
I'm basically transcended as well. Never
right. I mean, that'll never ever happen again in my life. Um,
happened.
but the deal is, so how are you doing that? Because I think that's really the impact of this podcast, right? The impact of this podcast is, yeah, you're spiritual, um, but how are you applying it in your daily life so that you're not I'm physical Lindsay over here and I'm metaphysical Lindsay over here and I'm a saying like and together like you meet in the middle somewhere. So that's how are you meeting yourself in the middle?
Yeah, I think I mean meditation has like changed my whole life, and I can't pinpoint it to like one style or one kind that I practice. It really is more of an evolving thing, and I can talk more about that, but what it gives me is this like ability to put a little bubble around myself, right? And like hold in and recognize what's my emotions, my thoughts, my feelings versus like what's Karen from Kansas that comes in my store and is pissed that we don't have a size 4 pair of shorts. Like that's actually has
Karen
nothing.
from Kansas should know better, first of all. That
There's a
bitch.
lot of them.
There's a lot of oh no. It's funny though. So you mentioned though the idea of no one set meditation. To me, it would be almost like I don't know, your favorite herbal tea that day, right? Like I mean,
Yeah.
there's all kinds. Like one day you're like, I need calm down, okay, Karen, meditation, right? And sometimes I need hyped up, Lindsay. Sometimes I need whatever. But sounds like what you're saying though is it gives you the opportunity to go in and create that energetic bubble, right? What do you
Yeah.
want? Who do you want to be in these next few moments, right? That you get to create that. Is that what you're saying?
And to remember that we don't have any idea what that other person's life looks like. I have no idea. 99% of the time, I'm going to guess it has nothing to do with those shorts. It doesn't. It has to do with a lot more, some deep seated stuff, right? And whereas I used to take that on and be like, oh, and I mean, I would take these people's shit home with me. I'm like, what am I doing? Like, why do I care so deeply about someone's reaction to us requiring masks in our store or something like that? I am in Florida, so I mean,
So that
we
lasted a week.
do our own thing down here. It's like it's not a thing, but
Well,
I used to
but
do
how,
it.
how did you what's the process of going from taking that home every day
Mhm.
to learning to let that go? And did that happen overnight or did it take you some time?
No, probably years. I actually started. So because I work for a company that sells yoga pants, we have a lot of yoga. We do a lot of yoga. It's how we used to like really market our business. And so back it up. I got out of the army. I was in the army for about 12 years. I got out of the army. There was no real like industry down where we moved. My husband got stationed in Florida. This is not where we would have chosen. We came down here. There's no industry that was related to my background. So I'm like, I tried to stay home. I'm not a stay-at-home mom. Like I was making my own sea salt. My husband would come home and I was like, hi, hey, it's me. Talk to me.
That's awesome. I mean, I would like to know how you made your sea salt, but
I
That's
went
interesting of itself.
to the Gulf and
Right.
got buckets of water. And I am no kidding. Yeah, it was
Yeah,
that's serious.
that's
You
great.
can also just buy it. You can buy it. It's pretty cheap.
There's no fun in that. Yeah, I mean, sure. There's no fun in that, right? You can buy all kinds of things, but you're over here, you got like a teaspoon of salt. You're like, ta-da!
That took 6 hours. So great. Everybody gets a little grain. Don't
Right.
use it too sparingly.
Why are you using all the salt?
That's how I was. I'm serious. Okay.
No, I get it.
Yeah.
I get it.
So I just like got a part-time job at this store, and it turns out I really liked it. The company was really cool, and it got me into yoga. I'd never done yoga. I had never been around it. I always thought it was like this like wooey thing. Yeah. So I started that, and it was mostly a physical practice. And little by little, I kind of came to understand I'm a reader. I'm a learner. I'm probably always have like 5 books by my nightstand and like 3 audio books and 2 podcasts going all the time. And I just started reading a little bit more on where yoga really came from and the true intent of yoga. And little by little kind of got out of my physical practice, of the actual like asana, moving my body through it, and much more connected to the meditation aspect and like the grounding principles of yoga and the 8 limbs. And so I, from there, just kind of started learning all kinds of things about meditation. And we are really fortunate in our area. Prudence Bruns, you know who she is? The Beatles song, Dear Prudence. It's about her. So that's her. She lives here.
I don't know that I recall the song. Can we get a couple bars?
Oh yeah. It's actually about when the Beatles were at a yoga retreat in India, and there was a woman who sat in her room and meditated for hours and hours, and they were like, "Come out, Prudence, come out." Well, that's her,
Okay.
and she's actually one of the leading teachers, and she is a Sanskrit translator, interpreter. I don't know.
She can deal in Sanskrit.
Yeah. So she's here, and I met her, and she shared about transcendental meditation with me. So I went through that training, and that was really my first go at meditation. I really had never done anything. Do you know much?
Yeah. Well, yeah, a little bit. So, how is TM different than some other forms of meditation?
It's mantra based too. So you're assigned a mantra. You go through this training, you're assigned a mantra, and then it's 20 minutes twice a day. It's pretty structured. It's very structured. And the guidance is like, that's what you do. And there's a lot of rules around it, which worked for me to start, but I'm kind of like a inner anarchist.
What are some of those rules, right? And what was your mantra?
So everybody has their unique one, and I'm super suspicious, or like super superstitious, and so I am not going to tell you my mantra because I am worried.
Are you not allowed to? Is that one of the rules? Is it like Fight Club?
Yeah, it's a rule.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. All right.
I'm gonna piss anybody off.
No. Mark you down as like a nonconformist.
Yeah, thank you. But it's like, okay, you meditate 20 minutes twice a day. You don't want to do it a certain amount of time before bed. You don't want to ever do it like laying down unless you're sick. There was just a lot of it where I'm like, it just became inaccessible to me, and it became hard for me to consistently practice it. And took some really great things from it. And then from there, just kind of started reading about mindfulness. And then, did a lot of guided meditations. There's so much accessible now. I mean, you can pull up meditation app, and there's like 42. You could open them up, and in those 42 apps, there's thousands. So just started playing around with that. And then I just finished a training, but my husband was sick. You know about that. My husband got really sick last year. Throughout the course of that, had a lot of really specific, a lot of trauma. I hate that word, and I don't know why I hate that word, but I do. A lot of really specific traumas that happened. I saw him
throughout that ordeal.
Yeah. He almost died a couple times. And it was pretty hard. And I lost my ability to drop into meditation really quickly. And it got so frustrating to me to where I was like, this is a tool that I have that I need more than ever. And I can't get into it. And didn't know why. And I reached out to a friend and she was like, hey, I've actually been doing some studying on trauma-based meditation and how like in times where you are really hyper focused on these events that have created this stir up in your brain, meditation can actually be really damaging if you're not, guided or led in the right way, or you're not aware of that trauma. And so I started reading a little bit about that. And then I just actually went to a training on theta healing, which was awesome, super awesome. But I'm just
you sent me, you owe me like more links or something on that. You sent me the information. Well, and here's the, what's funny though is, right, Army 12 years, getting involved with yoga and then be like, oh, this is all woo woo, to being, I just finished my theta healing, and I'd also like to know more about the trauma meditation, and because you're right. When this happened to me, mine was in no way, shape, or form as severe as kind of what you were going through, but I was going through a space, and I couldn't get out of it. Right.
Yeah.
And I know all this stuff and I'm really, really good at it. Right. But there was something and it wasn't even big, but it was just enough where I was so focused on it and I couldn't get the fuck out of my own way.
Yeah. It turns out that's like what happens, that like you get, all you do when you get quiet for meditation is you just replay that shit. You're like, oh, well, son of a bitch, what am I doing over here?
Yeah.
And I don't know a whole lot about it, but I have just kind of started digging in and reading some books and learning about it. But even just like somebody else, again, like somebody else saying like, hey, it's okay. Like,
it's huge.
Forgive yourself.
Yeah.
You're a damn human being. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. No, it's 100%. 100% when somebody else can share the human condition and let you know that you're not alone in that. And I think that that's something that you do with your blog, right? You do two things with your blog that come to my mind, if you don't mind, like me sharing kind of some quick thoughts on that, right? One is I'm a Bob Proctor fan. The dude's like wise and I don't know if there's some sales gimmicks and I'm afraid to give him money, but like everything he says is legit. And one of the things that he recommends, or he talks about something that he practices, is whenever he's got a problem or whenever he's going through something, he writes it down he gets it out of his head and on no piece of paper. Out of his head and on no piece of paper. And then he'll go through it, he'll read it, and he'll ask himself, did I get it all out? Right. I think it's a kind of a cathartic thing where, and at the same time, you can look at it. It's like talking to somebody almost, right? You and I can talk about, any problems that we're having. And sometimes when it comes out of your mouth, you're like, that was not as big as I thought that it was, right? You're like, that was a pretty big, inside my head, it was huge. But once it got out here and into this space, I was able to kind of see it in a different light, in a different way. So I think that that's one thing that you do with your blog, right? Sounds like it kind of started from a space where you needed to get the shit out of your head.
Yeah, right? I honestly didn't even think anybody was reading it. If I was real,
yeah, and so you're getting readers, and people do like it, and I think that they like it because you're just being honest, sincere, and letting them know, and not even trying to lead by example or anything. Again, just sharing who you are and what you're going through in a non-sugar-coated kind of way, and people get to see that, right?
I really hate that sugar-coating thing. I hate it. I think, I don't know. I really, it's like my pet peeve when somebody ain't okay, and they're like, no, everything's great, or like, this is what I'm posting on social media. This is what I'm sharing with the world. And then meanwhile, it's like a dumpster fire. And you're like, maybe if you just shared the dumpster fire a little bit, you could have somebody be like, oh my God, I'm actually in this dumpster too. And I know the way out. It's right over here.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
that's fair. But let's play it in reverse, because I also know that you're a big fan of some manifestation and a little bit of LOA, right? So then what happened? You know, how does that work in that space for you, right? So if I focus on my problem and I talk more about it, am I attracting more of it, or am I letting it go? I mean, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think about that. Damn Esther Hicks. Get out of my head. You don't know me.
Damn you, Esther.
So I do think about it. And I think a lot of it comes from the intention in it, right?
Absolutely.
I don't sit in my shit. I write it. And it is that catharsis of like, okay, I write it, I give it out, I read it, and then it's done. I'm not coming back. I'm not staying in it. And I think that's part of it. And this is like for every human being out there, there's something for them to do that allows them to do that. For me, it's writing, right? You know, for some people, it might be running. I don't know, gross. To each their own. I can't imagine feeling better mentally after a long run. I usually am like, oh my God, everything hurts. But
yeah,
for some people, it is that. Right. Cooking can be therapeutic for people. You cook, right?
Yeah. So yeah. I mean, for me, and it took me a while to kind of get around to it and understand it. But when I'm cooking in the kitchen, I'm creating something. Mm-hmm. That's an act of creation, and it feels wonderful, right?
Right, and you're sharing it, right?
It's like you get to share it, and then if somebody doesn't eat it, or if they use too much sea salt, I get pissed. But
you should have made your own.
but the deal is, it's like, and you start to let go of that too, right? Much to your, somebody's getting pissed because size 4 shorts aren't there. It's like you're not doing it. It's the getting over the reaction to what you've done or created, right? Whereas the process, Meg and I had this conversation not too long ago. She's like, I hate the process. I was like, well, the process is pretty cool. You just haven't kind of experienced it yet, right? You haven't experienced like this thing where you morphed through the process.
Yeah.
Right. And then that, like, because there's really nothing else you can say to it other than it's the process, a creation process. So
yeah.
And when you go through creating something with purpose, intent, and love, then it doesn't really matter what the outcome is, unless it's murder. And then we got to talk. But after that,
murder out of love? Of course, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, but I did cry.
Ask Meg. I feel like she's watched a documentary about someone.
I'm sure she's seen one or two on them, for sure. For sure. So let's talk about what's your process been, right? Let's talk about if you were to guide somebody through it right now, and I see on your site it says talk to me, like what's somebody going to reach out to you for? And what would you guide somebody through in a process oriented way?
I'm trying to think. I think the last person, or probably what I get the most feedback about, is anytime that I talk about my relationship with my body. I don't want to make a sweeping statement like this is something that women experience differently than men, because I think men experience the same sort of like discomfort in their own skin, or pressures from society or whatever. But this has been a big journey of mine. And growing up, my mom is something special. She did her best, I believe that, but we don't have a great relationship now. And a lot of that comes from me becoming a parent and seeing, oh, wait, oof, that was maybe not an okay thing. I remember she told me I was maybe 30. I mean, I had done some shit in my life. And she had said, the proudest I've ever been is when you decided to lose weight when you were a teenager. And I'm like, wow, like I've gone to combat, had a kid, I've graduated with degrees and have a successful career. And I was like, whoa, there it is. And so it's just something that was ever present in my life. And that constant need to look a certain way, to show up a certain way for everyone else, because they thought that's what was needed to be. And so I get a lot of women after I write about that specifically that will reach out and say like, okay, like, what do I do? Like, how did you get there? How did you get to the point where it's not that I don't care. I mean, I definitely care what I look like. but I don't attach so much meaning and expectation to it anymore. Who was it? It was on your podcast. Somebody called it a meat suit. Who was that?
That's funny. Christian. That was
Love
Christian.
him.
Yeah. No, he's really good. He's really good.
But I was like, I really do like, as I've learned to meditate and as I've learned to get a connection with the divine through meditation, I realized like, this is not it.
Mm-mm. This is, I mean, I would have to say that this is the smaller part of who we are.
Yeah, the small.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, if we infinitesimal, right? Especially if we consider ourselves, I don't know, in connection to the universe, right? Or as the universe, depending on how you kind of want to go about it. Yeah, Christian said that. Other people that have said that plenty of times is Neville Goddard talks about being in a meat suit. Alan Watts will talk about being in a meat suit. It's not. He says it, and it's funny, but it's true, right? This is just something that we're wearing right now, right?
Yeah.
So
think about like what is attractive to like other people. Like what is attractive to me? A guy that I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm super attracted to that guy. Another person's like, what?
right.
So it's also subjective. That I think like, I mean, it comes from meditation, and it always comes back to that like, because I started there and then I realized, oh wait, actually I'm this ball of light and I'm connected to the divine all the time. And like, I don't want to talk shit about the divine, right? So why am I talking shit about myself all the time?
Yeah.
And then I just became like, I didn't want to have small talk anymore. And I noticed that so many women around me, the majority of the conversations were grounded around what their kids were doing, what their husbands were doing, and their bodies. And
would you say that that's just because they're afraid of who they really are?
Yeah.
How would you help somebody get through that?
Yeah,
what does that mean? Like, right. Like, I mean, so, we'll even flip it back to you. So you think that you're divine, right? And you're connected to the divine. How would you show somebody else that they are divine and they're connected to the divine and they should have some larger conversations?
Well, I have them unabashedly. And what I've noticed is that when I have them, that it's uncomfortable at first, and then it becomes an okay thing. I mean, I do this at my store. I have about 30 people that work for me, and they hate me because I make these conversations a thing. Like if I come into the break room and we're talking about trying to lose weight so our thighs look less fat, I like awkwardly change the topic to what are you reading? What's a book you're reading? Let's talk about it. Or do you want to hear about what I manifested last week? Like I unabashedly I just think we're playing small, and I will call people out on it. And I think sometimes it's just that disruption that's needed. And then it's like, it's like a ripple effect. I do it and I see other people do it little by little. And that's like greatest success of my whole life is when I come in and we're talking about big things.
That's great, right? Because then you can see that you're having some influence, right? Or, you're manifesting that, right? For yourself, right? You're like, so you're able to kind of see this future state where you walk into an office and a break room and everybody's talking about cool shit instead of chubby thighs. Right? I mean, just to kind of lay it out there like that. So it's what makes it so easy for you to feel like you're living this kind of greater life and to be able to look at somebody else and say that, hey, you could be living a greater life, or stop playing small, right? And I bring that up because I recall being it was a few years ago. I was in a dad bloggers convention because that was my space at the time. But I was asking these guys, I was like, what's it feel like for you to step into your greatness? And I meant it, right? And they're like, yeah. And they shied away from accepting anything that looked like greatness. And it kind of hurt my heart.
Yeah.
Right? It's like,
Yeah.
wow, man, like you're a great person, and like you're doing something awesome, but you don't even see it for yourself, right?
Yeah.
So how do you step into your greatness, and how are you helping others step into theirs?
Number one, like expectations. You gotta let them shits go, which I say is like it's so easy. When I say this, like, oh, I basically have mastered this. No, I'm totally not. But just so you know, but I have learned so much around relinquishing expectations, not just at work, in my life, in my marriage, like so much. Just because I want an outcome from someone or I see something in someone, I don't have an ability to impact their path. I might touch it and I might, like a marble, marble hits and then it goes another direction, or a pool ball or whatever. But uh, who am I to know what their journey looks like and how many awesome things could come from them effing things up? And I mean, that's part of it. My the last year of my life has been like truly transformative. My husband and I have been through a shit ton, and I have watched him really come into his own. And I was on the phone. He had surgery yesterday. He had one more heart surgery yesterday, and he couldn't be in our marriage. We have marriage counseling every week. It's like we don't miss it, even if we feel really good. We're like, nope, like still doing it. And I was sitting in marriage counseling, and my counselor and I were talking, and I was saying how hard it is to be a caregiver for someone for this long. And that I was like, man, there's things about my husband that I really miss, from a year ago, like physically that he could do, or just like experiences we could have when he is truly healthy. And he was like, but what's come of it? And I sat and I thought about it. And I was like, this person that's here now is so much more grounded in like what's truly important. He's learning about the things that we're talking about now. And like we're able to have actual real conversation where we show up as ourselves instead of this like surface shit. And I'm like, you know what? Actually, you're right. Like that's what matters, not he still take naps. Like that's real. He was in the hospital for a year. You don't come out of that in 3 months. So it's cool. I can deal with that because the result is this. And we had to go through all that shit for that to happen. He probably wouldn't have if he hadn't almost died as many times as he did, or we hadn't had any of the issues that we had, we wouldn't be here. And so that has given me the perspective to know that like, hey, Karen, I see you. We don't have your shorts. I'm sorry that it's pissed you off. I'm just going to be kind to you anyway. Maybe it impacts you. Maybe it doesn't.
I mean, it goes to the whole idea of treating others as love thy neighbor isn't love thy neighbor them. You love the neighbor as yourself because in essence, and at least in our conversation in our world, they are us.
Yeah.
So I mean, you're not getting, and and I say this so that for the person out there that's struggling to deal with the people that are a pain in their ass or whatever. A couple things, right? I mean, however that person is, that's kind of a reflection of who we are, right? And then the idea of you get what you give. So, kill them with kindness, right? And it's maybe take that person out of the equation and put yourself into the equation, right? Be like, you know what? I'm just gonna. You're me. I love you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Oh man, I just had a thought that came to me. Okay, I don't share this a lot, so I'm going to share it, and this is what I do. So, my husband cheated on me. We had infidelity in our relationship, and here it is. Like this girl that he cheated on me with was a manifestation of every single insecurity that I had. She was the complete opposite of me, and in my deepest shit, it made me super insecure and like I'm not good enough. I don't look a certain way. I'm not on Instagram posting selfies. It's just not who I am. No judgment, live your life, but it's not. And I was like, oh my God, is this what he wants? And then I mean, it clicked for me one day and I was like, holy shit, she is everything that I am holding on to as my own insecurity. And I put that shit in my past. And I'm not, I'm not here to say that there's not any, like, oh, it was me that I did that. No.
Well, I mean, but I mean,
I mean.
so you're taking ownership of it in one way or another, right?
Yeah.
And it was really interesting. I saw Jack Canfield, Chicken Soup for Soul guy. He said, if just for a moment, if you can own 100% of it, right, all of it, then own it, right? But if you just own 99% of it, then there's a problem, right? But here, and what you've done is you've said, if you're looking at this other person, those are all the vibes that you were sending out. You were like creating this thing yourself, and you focused on it long enough with enough emotion, with enough intensity, to kind of create your own bullshit golem, whatever her name was.
100%. Yes.
Right.
Yes. And crazy, like exactly it in my head.
Right. And the thing is there's a lot of power in that then though. So, okay. I dialed in the wrong fucking thing.
Yeah. 100%.
Right. And so now you're like, all right, well, here's what I would change about that going forward. Right. And you mentioned Esther Hicks, right? So you're an Abraham Hicks fan.
Yeah.
Her whole principle is like, the relationships that you've had in the past, right? The idea that I don't want somebody that smokes, I don't want somebody that does this, I don't want somebody that does that, and yada yada, and all of a sudden that person shows up.
For sure.
Right. It was funny because Meg and I at dinner last week we were talking about the relationships that my mom had as I was growing up. My dad was abusive. Mm-hmm. Right. And so she got us out of that before it ever turned towards me. But almost every guy that I recall her being in a relationship later in life with was abusive.
Mm-hmm. So
just makes me think, and I'm sure that, if she tunes into this one, that she'd probably say no, but, and I don't know, but like, the whole idea of, I don't want somebody that abuses me. I don't want somebody that treats me like this. I don't want somebody that treats me like that. And instead of saying, this is what I do want. I always, I have Meg do it at dinner. I was like, pull out your Google phone, pull out Google, put in there, type in no red balloons, right? What's going to come up? Fucking red balloons,
everywhere.
Right? Everywhere. I mean, because, so our minds operate in the same way. So, I mean, which is something you're familiar with. One of the things that you did though, throughout, this whole ordeal with your husband being this way, you manifested some pretty crazy shit, right? Let's talk about that. Like, let's talk about how you focused on what tell us how you manifested that stuff, and you did it in kind of short order and some pretty cool things to talk about it.
Yeah, well, so we're both veterans and he's 100% disabled. So most of his healthcare goes to the VA. When he first got sick, that was what we were doing. We were going through the VA, and the VA denied him care. He kept getting sicker. They couldn't really figure it out. And we had to just kind of start and think, okay, you know what? We got to go somewhere else. Like, this isn't going to work. And so, I mean, we did the first thing anybody says with the VA is like, oh, call your congressman. So we did all that, right? We were like, okay, here we go. Like, let's do this. I don't know anything about politics, but let me get started. I'm not very political. So went that route, and I was on a walk one day. All of my best shit comes when I'm walking that damn feral dog of mine. I love my dog, but he is a mess. So we take a lot of walks because he needs a lot. We're walking, and I was like, there has to be a place where he can get everything that he needs. Mental, spiritual, physical, all of this. Like, it's got to be a place. And that, for me, I'm a big believer in feeling how things feel in your body. And I do feel it, and like, that sounds right. There it is. And so instead of going through the VA, my first thing is I call my sister. My sister's a doctor. And I'm like, maybe, is this a thing? like, and she started giving me a couple places I could look. And I just kept meditating on that. I was like, we're going to find a place that is going to be all encompassing and is going to follow him through till the end. Because the VA said, no, you we're going to send you to a nursing home. And my sister was like, he will die in that nursing home. He will not go out of it. And during COVID, he would have gone by himself. I wouldn't have been able to be there. Yeah. And sure enough, people reached out from Mass General and said, hey, we can take him on. Not only can we take him on, we can pay for what the insurance doesn't cover. And I was like, what? And then a friend of his created a GoFundMe and it blew up and it gave us enough to cover my travel costs to go back and forth and to pay for me to take time off work to be there. And I mean,
I want to throw out there too. Like, I mean, you also have a family, and it's not just you and your husband, right?
No,
So, I mean, like, I think that,
I have a teenage daughter. So
right, right. So you got all that going on, and it's enough too. You talked about being a caregiver, for this long period of time, and I chuckled to myself. It was like, for better or for worse, but like, I mean, for like a half hour a day, maybe, right? But you've got this whole year going on, and what I'm hearing you say though is like when you're going for these walks, you're kind of tossing these questions to the universe, like where feeling, and then you talk about feeling it, and one thing that I think as a male and in the United States anyways, we're taught not to feel a whole lot, right? But it dawns on me really, like, feeling really is, your thoughts and emotions, your head and your heart coming together as one and doing it kind of like the purposeful way. And sounds to me like you were feeling your way forward in a way that felt best. I hate to say like follow your bliss, but I'll say follow your hunches. Are you familiar with Florence Scovel Shinn? Mm-hmm. Yeah, so she's my jam, right? But hunches are your hounds of heaven, or something like that. I think it's one of her things, right? So you're following your hunches and you're focused on the possible, and then the shit just started happening.
Yep, it does. And my marriage counselor, anytime that we'll have like a hiccup in our marriage, he's like, "Oh, there you go. You're a fast manifester. What were you thinking about?" And I'm like, "Yeah, damn it, that's true." And I don't know, like you can say, like I could say right now, like I want to be a NASA, or NASA's not even a thing anymore. I want to be an astronaut. And that sounds really cool. It doesn't land for me. Like it doesn't. I don't get excited about it. I don't feel that. And if I say on the other hand, like I want to live in campgrounds one day because I love campground people. I love the lack of boundaries that exist in campgrounds. I love them.
It sounds like Meg's nightmare. That's like Meg's nightmare.
Totally. We've talked about it. I'm like, no, it's great. Everybody like comes over and eats your dinner. They come into your house. They're like, can I see your camper? And you're like, yeah.
Oh yeah, you're getting rid of the Airstream. I'm so jealous.
We're not though. Nobody bought it, so we're keeping it. And me and Zach and
you can rent them out, by the way, right? You can rent them, right?
I don't have time to manage it.
I'll send you a link later, but you don't have to do the management. That's kind of like an Airbnb for them.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
well,
yeah.
Great.
I think, anyways. I mean, I'm just.
But we're going to keep it for our road trip this summer. So me, Zach, my 15-year-old daughter, and 2 dogs.
Awesome.
We're taking this little Airstream. And we're going. Yeah,
I love it. So. Standing naked in front of strangers, your blog, people should be going and checking it out. They're going to find more of kind of what we're talking about here. I'm going to ask you a couple of questions, and it's going to be kind of like we're speed dating, right? We're spiritually speed dating right now. And let's go. Why are so many people depressed?
I don't think they're connected to who they are. I think they're connected to what they think everyone wants them to be. And I feel like they're faking it a lot. Faking it's exhausting.
When you stay connected to who you are, like, what does that mean to you?
Like showing up as what you think others expect of you instead of in a way that honors like why you've been put here. Everyone has a purpose. Everyone has their own path. And like the more that we get connected to that and show up in that way,
So you would tell somebody to kind of try and figure out what their purpose is and start leaning into it, and that would lead them to kind of who they are.
Yeah, and it doesn't need to be this like giant sexy thing. Like for me, I freaking love running a retail store, right? I used to think it needed to be this like huge thing, and I really get joy out of selling yoga pants. I love it.
And that's awesome, right? And I think that that can be, and it's been tough for me to find that. It's still tough for me to find that, right? If I'm not doing something a little headier, right? Because if I, going back to, if I feel like I'm in a room with people talking about chubby thighs, I don't feel like I'm living my best life, right? And so like how do you get out of that? And it sounds to me like you found ways to focus on what you're bringing into your life and to these people through the work that you do that is driving your purpose and satisfaction. And it doesn't have to, but you're still changing the world, right? So you're still changing the world.
I like it. Yeah, in my own little universe. And I think that that's the way that's the most accessible to everyone. I think sometimes this idea of like our purpose, we make it this big thing and then it seems so far that we don't even take a step towards it. But like if I can come into my store, say something kind to someone, they all of a sudden feel more comfortable in their skin, or they then repeat that. That's change, and you've made it in your own little microcosm, right?
Well, but it's not so micro, right? You go back to the idea of stepping into your greatness, and sometimes that's like 1,000 baby steps to get there.
Yeah.
Right. So these small, you're right. Like if we try to put this overarching sense of purpose, where it's like this huge fucking vision, right? Like, and instead we say, and I think it's okay to say that this is my purpose for right now.
Yeah.
There are people out there who believe your purpose doesn't change, right? But I think that there are instances of, how about there's purpose revision?
Yeah, God, I can tell you right now, 19-year-old Lindsay, that I don't know what I don't think it was the same.
Right.
Let's not talk about it.
So let's do, I love the idea that you feel like you can connect with the divine at will, that you are divine. That to me would indicate that you've got an idea on kind of what heaven is and how to get there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm not afraid of death anymore either, which is cool. It's not like I live recklessly, but I'm not afraid of death anymore because I just don't view it like, I don't have a different relationship with planes of existence and time, that I just don't view it the same. Also, meditation, can we just all get this shit out of our head that you need to be sitting on a pillow with like incense burning and essential oils and a mala? Like my best meditation's in my car on my lunch break.
Yeah,
okay,
I was doing that. It's funny. Oh, hey, I'm so glad you said. I was doing it yesterday, like in the car. Like I was like, you know what? And it was very comfortable. I had like my own jams going. There's also sound therapy because like I can turn the volume up, and so it's like theta. I could set like theta waves in the car, right? And I'm sitting in a theta situation. So yeah, what is heaven, right, to you, and how would you get there?
I think it's actually like getting to a place where okay, I'm going to describe it this way because my husband and I talk about this all the time. So we have we have 3 dogs, but we have an English bulldog. She's 11. She's kind of an asshole. She's grumpy. She bites people. Then we have Bojangles. He's my dog. And he lives his life just like so fully. He's so excited to see you. He is so curious and just enjoy all the time. And I feel like Shorty, that's the grumpy asshole, she's on her like first life. Bojangles be like on his 77th. He's had time to be like, oh, don't do that. No, okay. And you learn and you learn and you learn. And I think that it's an ability to have what we would consider to be like a life that is that, where you're like, man, I am in this and I am, there's hard things, but like, it's okay. And you move through it. I think it's more that. And I don't really think we have a concept of it. I don't even think there's a way I could describe it, but I think it's like an ultimate sense of peace and joy.
Yeah, I mean, so it sounds to me that, kind of living your life as it is and finding those moments of connection
Yeah.
would be to you a little bit like heaven. And
Yeah.
are you saying then that you could have heaven here on earth and not like a Belinda Carlisle song, but slightly different?
Oh, way to go. Good work, Belinda Carlisle. Yeah, I do think that. And now I want to sing it, but I don't want that. I don't want that immortalized in the podcast world. My teenage daughter would be like, "What are you doing?" I
What
am
happened there?
mortified.
All the right things. All the right things. No, that's perfect. And I agree. I think that it is, and I think that it ebbs and flows. But I think that kind of the more that you meditate, the more that you focus on it, the more that you make that your intent and your purpose to find in your life. If I pop in, heaven in my Google search engine, it's a good chance that I'll find it, right? At least I can dig. Yeah, I don't know how many O's I'm gonna have to go through to find the one that I like. But if we put that into our search engines, then we have an opportunity to find it. So grateful again for you to pop on. I've enjoyed getting to know you a little bit more. I enjoy, thank you for the conversations that we get to have online, and thanks for the conversations that you have with Meg. I know that you get to act as a translator for what I'm saying sometimes. It's great because Lindsay gets to translate what it is I'm saying to Meg sometimes because
In like normal language, right?
and it's a challenge, right? Because I'm so immersed in it, right? And it's the idea of you become what you eat, right? And if all you're taking in is this content, that's all that can come out. And I get to a point, and I know that I'm not the best with it, but sometimes I do forget, where I came from. Like, I've always been connected to source.
Yeah. Nope.
No. Hey, remember the other day when you were being an asshole? You weren't connected. You were totally not.
Yeah. If I'm really honest, part of why I write is because I am terrible at communicating with my husband. And if he reads that, it helps a lot where he's like, oh.
Yeah. I mean, that's why we have 90% of our conversations on Facebook, right? Like, that's where we catch up. She'll come in and let me know something's going on. But yeah, I read that like 2 hours ago. We're all caught up. Like, I'm on your feed.
Really a good way.
But so again, very grateful for you coming on today. I'm glad that we got the chance to have this conversation. Where should I send people to go hang out with you? Where should they find some more?
Yeah, go read my blog. I think that's a good way. And then, yeah, I mean, it's a baby blog because I do it very much on the side, and I would love one day to make that a thing that is bigger and that I can do on a larger scale. So yeah, go and tell me what you want me to say and start a conversation. I hate small talk. So yeah, just like drop some really awkward, awesome, deep shit in there. It's my best day.
So you've also got the chat function there, outside of some deep shit that you want some people to drop there, what are some other things that somebody might be able to reach out to you for?
If anything that I write connects you and you're like, man, how did you do that? I'm not here to tell you like this was easy. It took me like 10 years to figure this shit out, but I can be a partner and a sounding board, and nothing annoys me more than an advice giver. So I will not give you advice, but there is space, always space to just be where you are. And then maybe sometimes like a gentle nudge to be like, okay, you've been where you are a little too long. It's time. Let's do this. Like,
right. Time for you to get the fuck up.
Get out of here, dumpster. I know a way. We can go.
Right. Right on.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Okay. Thank you.